Get the Index Advantage. An introduction to the Horizons Total Return Index ETFs. Horizons ETFs believes that investors should be able to get benchmark index exposure as cost efficiently and as tax efficiently as possible. That's the idea behind our family of Total Return Index Exchange Traded Funds, or TRI ETFs. What are TRI ETFs? Put simply, TRI ETFs are a special type of benchmark or index tracking ETF. As their name implies, these ETFs provide the total return of an underlying index to investors. The total return is calculated as the price return plus the compounded returns of any dividend or income distributions from the constituents of the underlying index. Most ETFs pay out dividends or income from the constituents of the underlying index separately, but with TRI ETFs, the total return is reflected in the actual unit value of the ETF. TRI ETFs use an innovative investment structure known as a total return swap to deliver index returns in a low-cost and tax-efficient manner. We believe that TRI ETFs offer an optimal way to maximize cost savings of index investing, particularly when the ETFs are held in a non-registered investment account. How do TRI ETFs work? Unlike a physically replicated ETF that typically purchases the constituent securities found in the relevant underlying index in the same proportions as the index, a TRI ETF uses a synthetic structure that never buys the securities of an index directly. Instead, the cash portion of the ETF is put into a cash account. Unit holder money, therefore, is always held in cash. The TRI ETF then provides the investor with the total return of the index before fees and expenses by entering into a total return swap agreement with one or more counterparties. A counterparty is typically a large financial institution which will provide the ETF with the total return of the relevant underlying index in exchange for the interest earned on the cash deposit. Any distributions which are paid by the index constituents are automatically reflected in the net asset value, or NAV, of the ETF. What are the benefits of TRI ETFs? TRI ETFs offer three major advantages to investors. 1. Increased tax efficiency. This is a key advantage of the TRI ETFs. No taxable distributions are expected to be paid by these ETFs. Any distributions paid by the constituents of the underlying index are immediately reflected in the ETF's unit value. This means that an investor is only expected to be taxed on their capital gain, if any, that is realized if and when units are sold. Over time, a TRI ETF could potentially save an investor hundreds or even thousands of dollars in taxes depending on the size of their holdings. 2. Lower management fees and operating costs. Because TRI ETFs use a synthetic index tracking process, they don't require extensive portfolio management. This typically results in a lower management fee than a comparable physically replicated ETF. Transaction costs are also typically lower because, unlike a physically replicated ETF, rebalancing isn't executed by the ETF manager, but instead by the counterparty to the swap agreement. 3. Reduced tracking error. When an ETF physically replicates an index, it typically mandates that regular distributions from the underlying securities be held as cash and paid out on a scheduled distribution date or dates. As a result, the cash held within the structure does not participate in the index returns, typically creating a drag on the performance of the ETF. This, combined with the ETF's transaction costs from rebalancing and management fees, contributes to tracking error. With a TRI ETF structure, these issues are often significantly reduced since the counterparty delivers the total return of the index and the fees and expenses are lower. Horizons ETF's family of TRI ETFs. Since the inception of our first TRI ETFs in 2010, none have paid out taxable distributions to end unit holders. This has made TRI ETFs an attractive alternative to holding traditional ETFs in taxable accounts due to the potentially significant savings, particularly on an after-tax basis. Horizons ETFs offers investors a choice of more than 10 different TRI ETFs, providing exposure to major Canadian, US, and international indices as well as fixed income securities. Contact us to learn more. Horizons ETFs. Innovation is our capital. Make it yours.